All right, welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour, and let's get started by doing a recap on our latest features. And this week we're going to introduce one of the features that we introduced a few months ago, I think. It's the data archiving feature. So for a lot of accounts, if you have like a very large account, and especially if you have some sheets that contains maybe over 100K records, like 100,000 records. So usually if a sheet has over 100,000 records, there are certain operations that you execute on the sheet that will take considerably slower. And especially like if you're doing a filter without any exact matches on a string, or if you're doing multiple sorts, multiple ordering on multiple fields. So, or when you're generating a report that requires like scanning through all the data. So there are quite a few operations that will become considerably slower if your sheet contains a lot of records. And for us, a rule of thumb is like when it's over 100,000 records, then it's generally we start to consider it as a sheet with a lot of records, and you might consider doing some automatic archiving. So the feature that we're going to introduce this week is the automatic archiving configuration function. So yeah, even if your sheet doesn't have like 100,000 records, it may still be a good idea to start doing some automatic archiving, so that if you have a lot of records that you're not going to use on a daily basis, or like you're just keeping it there just in case that maybe years in the future you might want to check on it, and it would be a good idea to do an automatic archive so that you can archive those data, and so that when you're using your sheet on a daily basis, the sheet will work a lot faster. And in case you need to look up these very old data, you can still go to the automatic archiving function and retrieve those data from the archive. And moving data to the archive is a lot like deleting a record into a recycle bin. So when you archive the data, you're not going to see it anymore on your sheet, but you will still have a chance to retrieve those data if you really need it by going into the archive. So this is the place where you can configure automatic archiving for your account. So first of all, you go to the backup and restore, and you click on set up automatic archiving. So in automatic archiving, you could click on archive setting, the add archive setting, and you just choose a sheet that you would like to configure this automatic archive. And automatic archive determines if a record should be archived according to a date field. So it's going to archive old records. So if the point is to archive old records, then we need a field for the system to identify how old this is. So all fields, even if you don't have a date field on the sheet, there's a system field that's hidden for a record. It's the create date of the record. So by default, you can use the create date of the record to determine, okay, so this record is created from a long time ago, or you can choose the last update date. So we haven't made any updates to this record for a very long time, so we might as well archive this record. So if you choose a sheet and a reference date field, and you can choose a date like every month, like the first day of every month, and we can archive, let's say, records that are over 2 years and 6 months. And when you save the setting, the system will automatically archive data that the last update date is over 2.5 years, and do this archiving process on the first day of every month. So when you have these kind of archive configurations configured to your account, You will start to notice that some of those very large sheets will work considerably faster and when you're doing queries or you're running reports, because having more data to scan through for the database is still more resource and time consuming if you have more data. So setting up an automatic archiving function is pretty useful, especially you have an older Ragic account, have a lot of older data. So doing this is a good practice to maintain your database and make sure that it's small, lighter weight, and works faster. All right, and this is the recap on our latest feature today. And let's get back to the questions. All right, first question. Please allow to use set if do link and load sync, LNLS, that's a link and load sync, true on daily. So this is referring to a JavaScript workflow script. This is a function called to a JavaScript workflow script. So hi Jeff, I faced an issue with the daily workflow. There's a process that searches and links around 100 records daily based on certain criteria. After that, I need to recalculate all parent and children of these records. In the install sheet scope, the issue can be resolved by using set link and load sync. True. Yes, yeah. By link and load sync, this means that in the link and load setting, there's a checkbox that you can say, oh, you want to make sure that the link and load, the loaded field of the link and load configuration is synced at all time. And if you check this, that means that when you're doing certain type of formula recalculation, and it asks the system to make sure that link and load sync is executed. And this is by default not executed on the daily workflow when you do the formula recalculations, because for most formulas, it doesn't trigger any link and load sync, like 99% of the formulas. So it doesn't make sense to have them trigger link and load sync by default and in the formula recalculation. So okay, so yeah, so this is restricted because of performance consideration. We don't want formula recalculations to always trigger link and load sync, because they're gonna cascade into, when you update like 1,000 records with the formula recalculation, it's gonna cascade into like 100,000 updates to your database. So we kind of restrict this kind of link and load sync cascading when you're doing this kind of daily formula recalculations, because it's gonna recalculate on all those records for every single records every day. So it's gonna consume a lot of system resource. So consequently, I have to recalculate 3 entire sheets every morning. Yeah, because this cascade is not executed, instead of just those 100 records, which takes around 2 hours of the daily work for execution on average, compared to the potential 5 to 10 minutes. So the performance consideration seems a little bit odd for me here. Actually, it might not be odd for you here, because the reason is that when you're doing those kind of cascaded updates, you might call these updates repeatedly. So when you have 100 records and you cascade them into, like, let's say 1,000 updates, and these 1,000 updates might be updating the same field, same records on another sheet over and over again. So if you just rebuild the other sheet for once, it might take less time. So I'm not sure if you understand, if you get what I mean. So when you're doing these kind of cascaded updates, you might repeatedly update the same records over and over again. And it's not very easy to identify if you're doing a formula recalculation of like 100 records and you want to know that, oh, the first formula recalculate affects the same like 3 records on the other sheet, then the 10th formula recalculate. So it's likely that they're gonna update the same record on the other sheet. So it's not necessarily poorer performance to separately recalculate the other sheets. So I'm just saying there's a reason for this kind of configuration. So the performance consideration seems a little bit automatic. Could you possibly allow the use of set if do link and load sync in a limited number of scenarios upon request? Of course, we can look into this, but as I explained, allowing this kind of cascaded update in daily workflow is pretty bad for performance in a lot of cases that we've seen. So because we generally don't add these kind of restrictions out of the blue. So we usually see, oh, this is causing these kind of problems. Therefore, we have to add some kind of restrictions to some cascaded execution. So we will look into this, but it's likely that in a lot of cases, it's gonna cause a lot of problems in accounts with a lot of formula recalculations and triggering and link and load sync. All right, and thank you for your question. I'll check on this. Okay, next question. Just a sec. Okay. Using the same sheet design for multiple currencies. Say I want to use the same sheet design for multiple currencies. Can I make a new field with the country name and set the currency field symbol based on the country name field? Okay. For example, one currency field, one country field. If I choose Japan in the country field, the currency field will use the yen. If I select USA, it will use dollar, and so on. Okay, so the currency field, are you referring to the currency field? Okay, you're referring to the currency field. Yeah, I think you can set the currency dynamically on the currency field, and let me show you how to do that. Okay, let's create a new sheet. So currency demo. So let's say you have a country field, country, and you have a currency. So first of all, you can just choose currency, exchange rate. Okay, I'm not sure if you're referring to exchange rate, but I'm gonna assume that you're referring to the currency field. Let me look at the question again. Yeah, I don't think you're referring to the exchange rate field. Okay, then this is just a simple link and load. But still, let me, for my previous answer, let me just finish my explanation. So if you have a currency field, an exchange rate field, and you could use the select currency, because an exchange rate field will have two, and from currency and to currency. So I was thinking that your question was if you can use another field to choose a from currency and use another field to choose a to currency, like this. So maybe it's a from currency, and you have like a selection and to currency, and you also have a selection like USD, UR, to currency, USD, UR. Okay, so the currency field, you might want to choose a reference field of, save this first. You might want to choose a reference field as from currency and a selection of to currency. And this way, the currency fetched will be according to the fields that you choose. See? So if you choose USD to Euro, and it's gonna bring up the current currency automatically. Okay, so about the other question that you're asking, if you can choose a currency and choose a country and automatically have its currency symbol. So it's not like built in that we have a mapping of country and their currency symbol, but you could surely create a table to maintain this kind of mapping. So currency mapping. So let's say we have a currency mapping, a country and symbol. Okay, so if you have USD and you have $, save, and you can, if you have, what else do you have? Euro, UR, symbols this, and Japanese yen, PY. Of course, you could change it. You could change it to the actual country though. Japan. Euro. Okay, so let's suppose you have a mapping like this. Of course, you can add more and more records here to complete your currency mapping. But let's just say we have all the currency mapping, and we'll use these 3 records as a sample. So we go to our currency demo sheet and try to load this. And if you choose, you can use a basic link and load. If you choose currency mapping, you should choose a country, and it's gonna load the symbol automatically like this. So if you choose USA, it's gonna load this as a symbol. And if you choose Europe, and it's gonna load this as the currency symbol. So this is pretty much how I would design this according to your requirement. And this also works in a subtable. So if I delete these, I want to make them into a subtable. So you could also do this. So I choose a country and a symbol like this. So maybe use a line item name. It's over here. Okay. So this way you could be having like item 1, and you choose country like USA. What? Why didn't it load the symbol? Let me link this again. Not sure what I did wrong here. There we go. So this way you could have line item 1, country USA, and you load the symbol here. And you have item 2, and Euro here, and item 3, and Japan here. Okay, of course you can add more fields in the subtable here, like the actual unit price and the subtotal or anything to the line items. So this is just to show you how to choose a country and load the currency symbol here. can use link and load to, you can first create a sheet to maintain the mapping of countries and currencies, and use link and load to load the currency symbol of the country. For how to set this up, please see webinar recording. Demo sheet here. All right. Okay, hope this answers your question. All right, and that's it for the questions for today and the recap. So thank you for joining in to the Ragic Office Hour session today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to use the Office Hour question sheet, and I will be answering your question in 2 weeks. All right, thank you and goodbye.